Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the Royal Ascot vlog. So I have lived in London for 10 years now, and this was my second time going to Royal Ascot, both times in the Royal Enclosure. I know, very lucky of me. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you a little bit about what the Royal Ascot experience is like. I'll give you a bit of a lowdown and history of the event. I'll talk to you about some of the traditions and rules like the dress code, and I will share with you what our experience this year was like. I went on the Wednesday this year. It's a 5-day event and we just had the most fabulous time. And then I'll also finish out the video by talking to you a bit more about what I wore. You can obviously get a little bit of a preview here, and I'll share some practical tips for the ladies around what I would recommend packing with you for the day when you go. So if that sounds good, let's jump in. So the Royal Ascot is a 5-day horse racing event held every June at Ascot Racehorse in Berkshire. So it is a bit outside of London. In terms of how to get there, you can take the train from central London. I've heard it is very packed, so make sure to pre-book your tickets in advance. And I've heard it can be a little bit warm and sweaty, so maybe getting some of those portable fans on Amazon would be a good idea. Because there were a few of us going together, we actually carpooled. We took a black cab on the way there and then a wheelie on the way home. Now, Wheelie is one of the official partners and sponsors of the events. They have tons of cars, so that could be really convenient, but we just found it helpful to have an air-conditioned car with place to charge our phone, and it was worth the splurge in costs to do so. Now, the event itself is quite a prestigious event on the British social calendar. It's attended by royalty, celebrities, and thousands of guests from around the world, including many of us like yours truly who live in London. So now here we are actually pulling up at the famous Car Park 1 for Royal Enclosure. If you're lucky enough to get a parking pass for this, it is quite a thing. We actually were not part of a group there, but it is a very posh tailgating experience. And as you saw, people have their own kind of tents and tables and chairs and picnics. It looks really lovely. So this here you can see is us inside the Royal Enclosure and what I decided to wear for the day. I have a beautiful dress from Ted Baker and a hat from Nigel Raymond, which I'll go more in detail later. We had a booking at the restaurant Sandringham, which we had a set table for the day. So this is something that we paid for. It is a more premium experience, but you have your own table for the day. The room is pretty cool. They have air conditioning units. There's unlimited food and drink. So we arrived, we were served a glass of champagne, as you do. And then we had kind of some of the starters from the buffet, and there are some mains that you can also order as well. We got our bedding books as well, which are really great to get. This was included in Sandringham, but if not, you just buy one for, I think, £7. And it includes the history, gives a lot of detail on all the races of the day, the horses of the day, and then this allows you to have information to place your bets. And there are people that go around to take bets, and there also are betting stations where you can place your bets. Now, you need a British debit card, a bank card, or cash to place the bets. So this is a bit here of our menu for the day. So as mentioned, I just had some snacky starters from the bar area. As we arrived, we decided it was smart to have a good lunch before the champagne flowed too much. And then we also wanted to get out and go watch the horse races, which is, of course, you know, really why you're there. So the food was lovely, just a mix of kind of snacky bits and salads. I would definitely say there was a little something for everyone. I just went for some basics like salad and bread and cheese and charcuterie. And then for my main, I had, I forget if it was sea bass or, might have been sea bass or halibut. So a white fish with a beautiful creamy sauce, some vegetables. Portions were kind of small, but what was nice is there were so many different kind of grazing food options throughout the day. So we definitely were not gonna go hungry because there's afternoon tea with tea sandwiches and cakes later in the day, which I will, of course, show you. And we wanted to sit down and have the meal first just to have a nice welcome, but then we wanted to promptly get to the royal procession before 2 p.m. So the royal procession is something that happens every day at 2 p.m. So it's recommended probably to head over there about 15 minutes ahead of time. You know, I should mention that it was an extremely hot day this year. And during the royal procession, everyone goes to the Queen Anne Enclosure, and it's just a very short walk from the Royal Enclosure. And we wait to see the royal family and different kind of friends and dignitaries come on horse-drawn carriages, and they come out in front of us and wave. The national anthem is played as they enter the parade ring, and we all stand as a mark of respect. And I just think it's lovely, and I'm not sure how you meet the criteria, but some people are also invited to go walk and stand out on the green grass that you see here on screen during the royal procession. And it's really nice because even from where we were standing, we could see the king and queen pretty up close, and Prince William was also there on the day that we were there. So I think one of the things that's really lovely is that Royal Ascot is a very kind of historic event. It was originally founded by Queen Anne in 1711, and it's still very closely associated with the royal family. And the reason why this was established over 300 years ago is Queen Anne spotted the land's potential for horse racing. And the Royal Enclosure itself began as an exclusive viewing area for King George IV's guests in 1822. And it became a tradition for the royal family, with every monarch since attending annually, which is wonderful. So now you see the royal procession happening. It's a really wonderful ceremony like you have in many British events, which I love, you know, especially living here for 10 years. I have gotten to experience quite a few of these wonderful events, and you can see all the horses pull up to kind of that centerpiece. So I think from where we were standing, or probably just on the other side, would be a really great place to stand, because as you can see, I'm zooming in. So Queen Camilla is actually wearing this beautiful bright green color. I think bright green this year was one of the kind of top colors. So they pull up to this center point here, and they don't speak to the crowd, but they come out, they wave, and they also greet some of the people that are on the lawn with them. So this is really wonderful to see. We also did this last year. Doesn't take a very long amount of time out of the day, but is just a wonderful addition to the ceremony of the day. So let's talk a little bit about some of the different enclosures, because if you've never attended Royal Ascot, you might be wondering what the different enclosures are like. So I mentioned that I am in Royal Enclosure, which is the most exclusive. It does require invitation or sponsorship, and I'm very lucky that how I was invited by a friend who is a member of Ascot Racecourse. So there is a strict dress code and etiquette, which we will go to, but it does have wonderful private gardens, restaurants, and bars, and a viewing area of the racecourse. The one that we are standing in for the royal procession is called the Queen Anne Enclosure, which I think would also be a fantastic experience if you are not able to get into the royal enclosure. And this is premium general admission. It has great views. We actually spent quite a bit of time in the Queen Anne Enclosure because there are stands that are covered by shade that you can go and sit in, which have great views. There's also fine dining, so you can pre-book in some restaurants. And there's also access to the parade ring where we saw the royal procession. Now, there are a few other enclosures which I have not gotten a chance to go to, which are the Village Enclosure, which is trendy and relaxed, live music, bars, food stalls, good views of the track, a bit more of a party, but I think all the enclosures are kind of a party. And then the Windsor Enclosure, which is the most casual. There is no formal dress code, and it is ideal for picnics and group celebrations. So we did spend most of our day in the Royal Enclosure, but as mentioned, we went over to the Queen Anne Enclosure to watch a bunch of the races because we made bets on some of the different races and horses. And there is a really great view when you go up a few levels in the Queen Anne Enclosure to watch the races. So you can watch from down on the ground, which is what you're seeing here, but you also can watch from up above. And I would highly encourage doing a mix of both because you get a different experience there. Now, this part over here is also part, I believe, I forget if this is part Queen Anne or just Royal Enclosure over here, but this is an area where there are, the first year we went, we booked in one of the restaurants over here where you can just have your meal, but it's not an all-day place to sit. So that was really lovely and we had a wonderful experience there. There also is an Ascot shop where you can buy gifts from the event. Now, one of the most fun things about being at Royal Ascot, I think, is the fashion. So there's something a little bit of like fashions on the field, I think one of my friends said. So just seeing the different dresses, the different hats, each enclosure has a different standard of dress code, but regardless of which one you're in, it is really fun to see everyone's interpretations of it. Now this is back in the Sandringham restaurant, which was our place that we were staying for the day. We had a wonderful afternoon tea there. They also had a new addition this year with these kind of almost like hot air balloon style tables that you could book for the day, which looked really lovely, but to be honest, they were not very covered from the sun. And 2 years in a row, we've had some pretty toasty weather. So I would say actually a restaurant where you can have the inside piece would be really good. So as mentioned earlier, we really did watch all of the horse races because we placed bets on them, and that's also the purpose of going to this event. And this is another learning education if you've never been before, because there are so many different ways that you can place bets on the horse race. And what I did is I think I put about 20 pounds into letting the computer bet for me. So I had kind of like a pick and mix, as they say, of different types of bets, which is really fun. Actually, the year before, I won, I think, like 30 or 40 pounds doing that. This year, I won absolutely nothing on that. And then I also just put another 5 pounds, 10 pounds here, there, just on some horse names that I liked. And I did a mix of like placing in the first 3 for those. And that's actually where I won the most amount of money, because I did luck out with some horses with absolutely no knowledge of horse racing, just with some tips from friends and a little bit of internet research, just trying to guess on that, and just a couple horse names I really liked. There was one horse this past year called Misinformation, and I just thought, goodness, with everything going on in the world, that's kind of a fun and punchy name to bet on, and they came in first, just by sheer dumb luck for yours truly. So I made some of my money back, but I definitely probably was about 20 pounds in the hole, but I didn't bet more than, I think, 50 pounds in total. So it was a fun day, and it is actually a really fun feeling when you win something, even if you only win 5 pounds. It is, you can see kind of how people could get maybe a bit carried away. So if you are betting, please bet responsibly and go into the day with a certain amount that you want to bet and just have a bit of fun with it. So from up here, this is where we're sitting in the Queen Anne Enclosure in the stands. So you can see how we tried to position ourselves right on the finish line, which was really fun. So when the horses come thundering through, you can kind of see if one of your horses is making it. So yeah, all in all, I would say it was just such a fantastic day. I really did love it. And I will, at the end of this video, go into some tips on what I would recommend packing and also what I wore for the day. Okay, so a couple tips on the day. I would always recommend planning ahead, especially for both the men and the women with what you're wearing because of the formal dress code for men where you have to wear the top hat and tails. There are instructions on the website by Enclosure on what you should wear. So if you are in Royal Enclosure, you do need your dress to have at least a 1-inch thick strap. And you also do need to have certain guidelines for your hat in terms of the width of it. So you're not really supposed to wear a fascinator in the Royal Enclosure. The hat has to have a certain width to the brim. So something like this would be totally fine. And for the length of the dress, you also need it to be, I think, at least skimming or near the knee. I usually go for something midi to long, just because sometimes I always worry about it being cold in the British summer, but that has not been the case. So for the ladies, let me stand up and show you what I wore this year. So I don't think my living room is big enough to show you the full length, so I can go hop over to my full length mirror as well, but we'll start here. So in terms of what I wore this beautiful dress from Ted Baker. I actually purchased this dress last year for a friend's wedding because the first night was going to be a white and gold night. And when I purchased it, I immediately thought I probably could also wear this to Royal Ascot. So it's just a very pretty full-length dress. It has these beautiful textured white rosettes on it. It does fit the strap requirements and obviously the length requirements. And I did want to dress a bit more conservatively just because I do think that's the spirit of the event. I don't feel like this is an event where you want to be too sexy or too showy. I think it's about being classic and elegant. Now let me go and show you just the full length dress before we get on to what I packed for the day. All right, so as you can see, this is the full look. I've got my beautiful Nigel Raymond hat. I decided to go for just some beautiful statement pearl earrings. I don't know who these are by. These were a gift from my mom for Christmas. This is the Ted Baker dress in more detail, so you can see it's very elegant and classic. I was channeling my inner Kate Middleton to the best of my ability, and I just like how it's a simple dress, kind of cinches you in the right spots, but it is, you know, I think the thing with Royal Ascot is you always, like, the look is a little bit of a statement, so it's an opportunity to express yourself and to have fun with it, with how you structure the dress with the hat. I would say if budget is an issue, I've got a couple confessions to make to you. So I did splurge on buying the hat last year at Nigel Raymond. I can't remember if it was 200 or 250 pounds. They also sell them online at John Lewis, so if you want to price check, you can. I actually went to his store in Marylebone just because I was really lost going for the first time last year. And he advised me really smartly on getting a neutral hat. Last year I wore a navy dress, so he had said kind of an ivory, you know, off-white hat would be really good because if you want to get the value for the money, you can wear it multiple years in a row. So that's what I've done. I wore it last year and now I'm wearing it this year. And then I have a confession to make. I actually got this Ted Baker dress on, if you'll believe it, Vinted, because I had seen it on the website when I was planning the dress for my friend's wedding, and it sold out so quickly that I missed my opportunity and I was really devastated. I ordered all these other white dresses online. None of them fit. They all looked horrible or were see-through, and I kept thinking about this dress, and my friend had said, Jess, just go on Vinted. So I ended up getting the dress for about 75 pounds on Vinted, but I had 50 pounds in credits because I also sell some of my clothing on Vinted. So I think this might have been the bargain of the century, and the dress fit perfectly, no alterations needed. Really lovely. And then I'm actually just wearing, I would recommend probably a wedge, especially if you're in the Royal Enclosure or the Queen Anne Enclosure. Those are the only two I've been to, but a wedge is really nice, especially in Royal Enclosure because there's a lot of grass. And I do have to confess, these are very old and probably falling apart, but these are nude wedges from Marks and Spencer, and they're the most comfortable pair of shoes I own, so I would not recommend wearing a high heel. If anything, a lot of women wear ballet flats or just a very small little heel. And if you could do like a very conservative wedge, that would probably be even more comfortable for the day, or just a small little heel, but something preferably that's really not gonna sink into the grass would be the vibe. And then I just wore some really pretty little pearl bracelets with the look, and that's it. And actually I'll sit down and show you the hat a little bit more so you can get a reason as to why I like this style of hat. Okay. Here we are again, get comfy. Okay, so let's see, I don't know if I can push the camera back a little bit, but okay, so the reason why I really like this hat, so I actually curled my hair for the day. I'm recreating, it's just been too hot, so I had to wait till it was slightly cooler to sit down and film this. But this is a look at my hat. Let me see if I can turn my ring light down. So you can see maybe a little bit more of the texture of it. But it's just so Nigel Raymond makes this style hat in quite a few colors, and I'll try to see if I can link to some on the John Lewis website so you can get a sense for which one I purchased, if there's anything still similar. But what's really nice about it is it's a headband. So there are some hats, and especially if you go with some of the really incredible milliners, that you can do, but you have to pin them to your head. And I don't know about you, but I kind of have like 3 hairstyles: straight and down, curled and down, and up in a ponytail or bun. So I am not what you would call probably skilled enough to pin my hat into my hair. So I think the idea of a hat with a headband is really easy, because you just pull your hair back, and if you do some really pretty curls, then from the back, you know, if you really do like some pretty tight kind of curls that will drop as the day goes on, we're just gonna say it's a lot easier. So, yep, and then the hat is just literally that easy to put on. So really lovely. And actually, we Googled this on the way to Ascot, because do you know that the reason why the ladies' hats are on the right-hand side is it has to do with the side that men would wear their sword on. So I believe it's like the ladies' hats are on the right because the man would wear his sword on the left, as the more you know. So, but these are just some of the traditions, and this is just naturally the way this hat was designed to tilt like this, but it's great because you can still wear your sunglasses with it. All right, so next what I want to share with you is what I packed for the day, because I think when you're gonna go have a really long day out like Royal Ascot, you gotta think strategically about what to pack for the day that doesn't weigh you down, but adds value to the day. All right, so the bag that I brought for the day is, I used this, and I will link to it down below. This is an older one, but there are newer versions of this bag. Right now, I brought this Prada bag, which is just kind of a simple, kind of boxy bag. It does have a shoulder strap on it. I borrow my handbags from Cocoon Club in London, so I specifically borrowed this bag for Royal Ascot, and it was great. It was a great size for the day. So let me show you. I'm just gonna move somehow I have my laptop keyboard sitting down below me. I'm gonna show you what I packed for the day. So as you can see, the bag, everything fits nicely. I don't have my sunglasses with me, but imagine my sunglasses would have been on. I packed a reusable bottle of water just so I could fill up throughout the day. Sometimes Royal Ascot can be a bit boozy, especially on the weekend. There's just sometimes a lot of drunk people, and I don't really drink that much. We did have a couple glasses of champagne during the day, but it's really important to have water, and you can bring your own bottle of water in, so that's good to know. Then I did also, I mean, just because we're girls and we're confessing, I did pop some extra little makeup bits in just to top off during the day. So some bronzer, some powder, under eye concealer, and just a little face oil, because sometimes I get a little crusty around the eyes after all day. But yeah, I had those. And what's great is By Terry, also for their hyaluronic acid powder, they do these travel size ones, which I always have in my handbag, which is great. I did have a power bank, so I would recommend this. I'm sure if you're booked in a restaurant all day, there would be somewhere to charge your phone, but isn't it just easier if you have a handbag to have the power bank in your handbag. So brought that with me with the cord. And then I also had my wallet for the day. So as mentioned, it's really good to bring some cash with you, because when you're buying the what are they called? The books that you get the information on to place the bets, you have to buy those in cash or with, I think, a British debit card. So especially if you're not from here and you're coming for the event, if you don't have a British debit card, then you would want to have some cash with you for the betting. And when you win money, you also get the money back in cash. So you can decide if you want to reinvest that. But yes, have my wallet. And I think it's always good to have an ID with you. They did not ID us for Ascot, that I recall. So what they needed upon entry was you can download the digital ticket in your wallet on your phone, or just show it on your phone screen. And then it's also really important where you are given, based on the day, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that, but this is just my name. It says guests Wednesday 2025, and you have to wear the badge pinned to your dress at all times, because when you are past, so Royal Enclosure, you can go to any of the enclosures. So I did, as mentioned, spend some time in the Queen Anne enclosure, so they do actually check, and the color of this is different per day, so you can't kind of sneak in. But on the back it says strictly non-transferable. This badge must be visible at all times. A dress code applies. Visit ascot.com for details. This badge does not allow access to the race course. So it doesn't allow access everywhere, and must be accompanied by an admission ticket, which of course you can have on your phone. So that's lovely. And then I also had, on top of that, I also had some lipstick. So what I'm wearing is Estee Lauder 420 Rebellious Rose. How fitting. And then I also, in case it got cold, which it did not because it was so boiling this year, I packed a pashmina. And I think this is a good hack for women if you're a little worried about, if you're in Royal Enclosure and you are worried about something like the strap length. Good idea is to bring a little blazer or a pashmina, because if the fashion police does come after you, you can just wear that over. But I would say just get a dress where you can stick to the dress code. I've actually seen some women even go to the tailor ahead of time just to get like extra fabric added on an existing dress they love but might have more of a spaghetti strap. So maybe they just get the strap made to be 1 inch thick, which I think, hey, I mean, another great way and sustainable. If you have a dress you love, just get it a little bit altered for the event to fit the dress code. So let me look at my notes to see if there's anything else I recommend for the day. Oh, I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, is plan your travel ahead of time. So if you're gonna take the train, book tickets for that. I unfortunately cannot advise on the train. Both years we just used wheelie or a cab. So I actually do recommend that. I just think a friend of mine took the train to and from, and he said it was miserable on the way home. It was so hot and sweaty, and it was just really, really packed. And I think after you've been standing, or you've been in the hot sun, or maybe you've had a few too many drinks all day, it's a lot. I think a lot of people think, oh, the traffic is gonna be horrible. I think we left a little after 7 p.m. on the Wednesday, and traffic was not bad. So another hack that a friend was suggesting to me, which I actually think is a really good idea if you live in central London and maybe you don't want to pay the huge budget for the taxi fees, is you could go take the Heathrow Express to Heathrow Airport and then get in a black cab from there to the Ascot Racecourse, or take the wheelie back to Heathrow Airport and then take the Heathrow Express or the Elizabeth line back from there. So that could be a hack. I've never tried it. I don't know if it would save a lot of money. We just felt that because there were 3 of us in a car, it was easy enough to, to share the cost of the car. And then obviously, car services like Wheelie also do have XL options if you're going with a bigger group. And then I think I went through my outfit in detail. I think comfort is key with the footwear, and maybe if you're a lady, maybe bringing some blister band-aids or some ballet flats just if your feet have had enough. You do see some people even in Royal Enclosure at some point walking around barefoot, and I just don't think that's the vibe. I think maybe pack the ballet flats or something that you can give your feet a little rest in. And then, oh yeah, one thing I actually didn't mention that I did have in my handbag that I forgot about is sunscreen. So definitely pack some sunscreen, especially if we were really lucky to have the indoor restaurant and we spent some time in the Queen Anne enclosure under the shade, but there's a lot of time being spent out in the sun. And while for ladies, the hat does shield your face a bit, especially for your shoulders, you're definitely in bright sunlight for most of the day, and you see a lot of very lobster-esque people by the end. So I would say sunscreen is definitely a non-negotiable. Even just get a little travel size one for the day from Boots. And yeah, so I think that's probably it. If there is a question that I did not answer that you would like an answer to, please leave a comment down below. I would love it if you hit the like button if you liked this video. And I would absolutely love it if you would consider subscribing. I make travel and lifestyle videos. I share some bits about my life in London and some of the fabulous events like Ascot. So if you would love to join me on this wonderful YouTube journey, I would greatly appreciate it. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you soon.